start out with quality stuff, in a particular niche. And it shouldn't just be something that's superficial. It should be a little, you peel the layers of the onion. So you have to try getting towards the core of it. So once you've built that audience, it is always very easy to migrate them to another platform.
Welcome everyone. Welcome to the second episode of the Guiding Charge. Today we have Kamalika Poddar, who got featured in LinkedIn Top Voices 2020. She is one of the youngest member who got featured in the LinkedIn Top Voices 2020. She completed her MBA from MDI Gurgaon and BTech from SSN College of Engineering, Anna University. Kamalika, welcome. Welcome to the Guiding Torch. Can you
Hi,
please
thanks for having me. It's a great pleasure being here, especially connecting with another alum of mine. So, always a pleasure.
Thanks a lot, Kamalika. Kamalika, can you let us know how your journey of writing has started? To speak about it, how you started writing over LinkedIn, and from your initial stages, how it became to at such level where you are today.
Quite honestly, I've never really viewed myself as someone who writes. I've always been someone who loved reading. Like, even when I was a little girl, the best birthday presents I've ever received were the books that people gave to me, as opposed to, dolls or whatever that other girls played with. So I've always been, and I'm like a self proclaimed bookworm. I'd probably take time out reading when I'm walking to the supermarket or something like that. That's how addicted I am to reading. So I've always liked the, the reading part of it. But somewhere I think that, my entire upbringing, like from my parents to the teachers that I had and all of that, they kind of always encouraged me to ask questions. Like they kids have that natural curiosity, and a lot of the times they say that growing up that gets stifled. For me, fortunately, that was not the case. Like, everyone around me always encouraged me to ask more questions, to think a little deeper, to figure out for yourself, like go dig and explore. So that I think for me was what the foundation for my writing journey, so to speak, was. I would start trying excavating answers on my own, not be satisfied with what has been written or published elsewhere, and then come up with my own ideas on that. So that is probably where I started off. And uh, that's the thing. So a lot of the things that I do write is probably what I've read plus my experience put together, which is why a lot of people say that, oh, this is a very fresh perspective. To me, it's what I've been doing my whole life. So I don't really still see myself as someone who writes. Like, I call myself a dilettante writer for a reason. I don't do this, I just do it as out of fun, or because there are some unanswered questions that I like answered. So that's probably where I see myself, more of a consumer of content, and occasionally putting out a few bits and pieces here and there.
So, Kamalika, has anything changed after featuring into the LinkedIn Top Voices 2020? Has means the you become a more like a celebrity. So, did you
Uh,
get that feeling?
Not really. Like work is still the same as before. The kind of content I'm putting out, I hopefully is still the same. I hope the quality is not degraded after that. But yeah, I do think that being featured anywhere for that matter brings in a lot of responsibility. Not something that I realized in the initial phases, but like when I first got to know, like I was not expecting this at all, to be very honest. So when I did get featured, it was like a very pleasant surprise. And for I think a whole week, I was just euphoric. And then when the euphoria died down, I was just talking to one of my mentors. He's more of a life mentor than a career mentor too, but life mentor too. So he was like saying, now it's time for you to become more responsible. So I realized that, yeah, it is kind of a badge of honor, but it is also something that means that you should take your whatever you put out much more seriously. So like, I've taken a conscious decision that because this is something that LinkedIn has given me a recognition of sorts, I should not try like misappropriating it. So one of the decisions, one of the promises I've made to myself is that I'm going to stop ranting on the platform. Like I'm going to keep all those negative posts out of the bay right now, because a lot of, you know, like I've said before to you, like the internet is forever. Whatever you write out there, it's going to be there forever. So I don't want that negative, uh, whatever influence to get out over there. I don't want people to take a negative feedback from me. So that is probably the one change that I am making. But otherwise, from the audience side, from how I've been creating content, like writing on LinkedIn, I don't think much has changed.
Yeah, it's very clearly said also, with great power comes great responsibility. So,
Spider-Man.
same way. And I can vouch for that. Definitely, your content has not degraded. It has only upgraded after you got featured, because I'm following you for quite some time. So, I can definitely vouch for that.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay. So, what are the advantages, Kamlika, that you see to use LinkedIn as a platform to put your views across rather than using any other platform like some blog or any other channel could be?
Okay. Uh, I think because of the way LinkedIn is constructed, it's to help people connect with professionals around the world. A side effect of that is that you get to connect with a lot of like-minded people. And because of LinkedIn, I have this entire community of very close friends who I've never met. It's only on LinkedIn that, and we formed a group of our own outside. And we exchanged so many ideas on so many different things that it has really broadened my perspective. And more than just broadening my perspective, I know that today, if I have, say, a doubt in, implementing some tech strategy of some sort, I know that I can reach out to Hitanshu Gandhi and he'll give me like a very succinct, a very clear sort of guidance as to what to do, what not to do, what is right, what is wrong. So that sort of a support system has was possible only because I was active on LinkedIn, he was active on LinkedIn. We both found each other's connection content through whatever the LinkedIn's algorithm, and we were able to connect because of that. So I think that is one of the biggest advantages for me. The other advantages is that like you've seen, I tend to write on a lot of different topics. So the thing is, I'm no expert on most of the things that I write on. But that's the thing. I put it out because I know that there will be someone who knows much more than me. He'll either come correct me, or he'll bolster my hypothesis, whatever I've had, and give me like, okay, this is why you're right, or this is why you're wrong, sort of a feedback. So that is again another thing that can be used to improve your own understanding of what you know and what you don't know. So that is another big advantage of using LinkedIn for me. Why other platforms don't work? I used to be on Twitter, but Twitter is just a place where you go to get entertained and trolled, or just read all the trolls that are there. So that is probably why Twitter does not work at the same way. When it comes to blogging is a lot more. You need to develop your followers organically. There is no other algorithm that pushes your content or whatever. But on LinkedIn, that kind of the first. So if someone is probably considering a career in blogging, or say like a very niche sort of a segment in which they want to get into blogging, I would suggest do what Aviral Bhatnagar has done. So he started out by posting a lot. For that matter, even what Finshots did. So they started out with a community on LinkedIn. They posted a daily basis, probably sometimes even twice or thrice in a day. And they built a follower from there, and those followers later they were able to seamlessly migrate to their blog. So that would probably be one thing that I would uh, as a way to build your follower on a blog sort of a platform would be what I would say.
Kamlika, as I'm aware that you are a very creative person from childhood itself, like you have mentioned, you always used to like reading and you were involved in theaters, music also. So, is this what you always wanted to, that you wanted to have a career in in a role where you have to be more creative rather than a normal 9 to 5 job?
Quite honestly, my career is anything but creative. I'm your plain vanilla banker. I do like on a day-to-day basis. Creativity is not like it is there, of course. Every job requires a bit of creativity, but did I always want to do this? No, I don't think so. And the reason again, goes back to my upbringing. Like Randy Posh always says, I won the parent lottery. So I really believe that my parents, the school that they put me into, they always encouraged me. Like, whatever wild ideas I came up with, they were always very. They never said, "Ki no, 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 don't do this. Like this is not a career or whatever." Like because I remember when I was in, I think around fourth or fifth standard, I was reading. I was this mad fan of this author called Gerald Durrell, who was an environmentalist. So I wanted to become that. I was like, yeah, the environment is dying. We need more environmentalists. So yes, I want to become that. And no one told me no, that is not a legit career option. People actually said, yeah, that's good. That's not bad. Then you'll need to, probably get your grades up in biology a little more and stuff like that. So and then when I was in around eighth or ninth standard, I wanted to become a vet surgeon, inspired again by James Herriot. So my I never really knew what I wanted to do, but whatever options I came up with, my parents, teachers, everyone was always like, yeah, go ahead, explore. And I think in all this, gusto to explore, I ended up taking a very safe, very boring sort of a career option, doing an engineering, then an MBA, and then joining a bank. So, yeah, that's where I am today.
Yeah, Kamika. So it's very honest, to be honest, and it's happens with everybody out there. Nobody knows from the starting itself what they wanted to do, and it's very important, to be honest. Rather than getting frustrated about this, keep exploring their options, and whatever you like in the end, settle with that particular thing. And yeah, it's important that you settle it at a certain age. It's not like that up to 60 years of age you keep exploring and never come to know what you are doing it. Then it becomes a problem. But to be honest, nobody knows the right answer from childhood itself. So it's very important to keep exploring and keep understanding what are the different career options or the different opportunities out there, and learn more about that and eventually grow yourself.
Yeah, true.
So, Kamlika, like you have mentioned, it was a pleasant surprise when you came to know about LinkedIn Top Voices, and you also believe that when your parents put you in that school in your childhood was also a important thing in your career. So, with all these things, do you believe in luck? Means, if you do so, then does it play any role in anyone's success?
Of course, absolutely. I mean, some people call it luck, some people call it being at the right time at the right place, some people just, put it down to faith and God. I do think there is an element of luck. Like, I reached where I am because of whatever has happened to me in the past. The entire background of mine is what has helped me get where I am. So, and that is not something everyone, like, not everyone got a chance to experience that. So, if that is not luck, what else would you call luck, So, yeah, there is definitely an element of luck. If, like, I can give you a very personal anecdote of mine. My dad had gotten transferred to Jalandhar once when I was around, I think in third standard or something like that, and the school systems over there were not that great. I'm guessing if it had been any other parent, they would have been like, "Hey, you I know it's not an English medium school like what you were used to before, but this is the best school that is there in Jalandhar. You have to do your best from now on." But my parents were, they put me first. Like I don't know how many other parents would have done that. He quit his job and said, "No, let's just move back to Chennai. Schools in Chennai were much better. We will go back to her old school, which happens to be like, so Balavidya Mandir is one of the top schools in Chennai. So they were like, no, we will go back there. They literally fought tooth and nail with my principal to get me back in. Of course, we had a good relationship with our principal. So the minute, there was a vacancy, I was let in. So I don't think a lot of other children would have had that sort of a backing, So, and parental support, I would categorize it as luck. Not a lot of people have that sort of a support system. So and because of the school in which I was, my teachers, they became like lifelong mentors. I'm still in touch with my school teachers. There are still times when I go back to them and talk to them. So that again is luck in its own way.
Yeah.
So I do think it. not just there, like even at MDI, I got very lucky. Like a lot of people, you'd probably be able to relate. People were terrified of Jaideep Mukherjee sir's
Yeah.
classes. Somehow I got along very well with him, and he really liked me, and he would encourage me, just send me random papers to read on the topic that I had raised in the class, or the class before. So I think I got really lucky with all of that.
Yeah. So yeah, like you have mentioned that just a very small thing. One of my friend told me that the home that you have born on, or the country that you have born on which you have no control, to be honest, that plays a very important role how your career and how your whole life is going to be. So which from there itself luck start playing a small part of role in your life. So, Kamlika, like you have mentioned about your school, like it plays an important role in your success. And I know in your school there is no exam skill sixth standard, okay, and
Yeah,
that means there is no competition as such that is prevailing around today in the today's society. So,
very
do
true.
you believe that too much increase in the competition around, okay, whether you can call it through coding or Whitehead Junior ads, okay, or you can call it through the multiple activities that are being taken by the students in their schools, it is creating their creativity to some extent or making them more creative?
um I honestly do believe that, not having exams up till our six standards really helped a lot of us explore what we really wanted to do. We did not have that pressure of, oh, we need to study for this exam, oh, we have to, get this much marks or whatever. So that really freed up a lot of our time to figure out what we wanted to do. And I don't know if it was entirely because of the teaching structure that was there at Balavidya Mandir, but a lot of my batchmates are in a lot of alternate careers. Like one of my friends, he directs he like before the pandemic he used to direct plays in a lot of the prominent theaters across Chennai and Bangalore as well. Another friend of my three of my classmates are in the movie line. Two of them are radio jockeys. A lot of different things that people, especially for us 90s kids, our careers are either become a doctor, an engineer, or if you take up commerce, then you have to be a CA. So there were very limited options. There you see, two lawyers, you see one environmentalist, and like so many different sort of career options that people have found out for themselves. I think that was only because we did not have that, कि अरे तुम्हें भी कोड करना है, तुम्हें एक ऐप निकालना है by the time you're 12 or whatever. None of that was there for us at all. We were just free to figure out what we really liked, and that is very important because those are your formative years. And as a kid, I think we think kids are immature, but really they're quite smart. Like they actually know what they want to do and what they're good at. And like the minute you start figuring that a good, the intersection of the two of what you're good at, what you really enjoy doing, that is where you can make a real great killing in your career. So I think that does play a very important role, having that freedom as a kid to not just chase marks and
Yeah,
yeah.
like you have mentioned, it gives the opportunity to explore different career options also. Like you all have mentioned earlier, you wanted to become an environmentalist at some point of time, and then you wanted to become a vet surgeon. To be honest, if I'm putting another person, another kid just learn coding from the starting or go to IIT JEE coaching classes from sixth class itself, I have never given him an option to explore other careers, to be honest. So from that perspective, like you have mentioned, it's very important to give them that options at the early stage itself, explore, because that is the age at which they can explore different careers and then can decide upon what they wanted to do, rather than creeping at the age of 25 that sorry, this is what I never wanted to do it, and now I'm stuck and I don't know what to do. So it's
True.
really important that we give them opportunity at the very early stage itself to explore those things, like you have mentioned. As most of your audience is online, okay, and with this pandemic now, everything is becoming more and more online. So, do you believe with this thing, the information which is available out there, people are becoming more aware, or is it making them more insecure or private? How someone can create a balance between this too much access of an information or what they need to know exactly?
That's quite an apt question actually, because a lot of what is going on around. Just take the pandemic for instance. When it first came, like in around March, there was so much of a panic that was propelled because of the internet. Like people were scared of even, like there was this rumor that if you take a newspaper, you're going to end up getting COVID-19. So there was a lot of this information that was actually making people, more than helping them, it was spreading misinformation. So that it is like a very relevant question that you've asked. So the way I see it, you can either do like a total Naseem Taleb. You can be like, okay, I'm not going to read any news at all. But then he can afford to do that because yeah, he has this multi-billion-dollar hedge fund that's keeping him afloat. But for people like us, we really need to know where to strike a balance. So not falling prey to a lot of this. So just it's very funny that this question comes in today, because just yesterday in the news I was seeing that the farmer protests that are going on, they've started their own news to prevent the propagation of false information and propagandas and all that. So it's really important that you know what is true, what is not true. Like that is something that, because there's so much of information on the internet, it's hard to discern. What I typically like doing is I try seeing who's footing the bill for what is being put out there. So typically, you can try, understanding who stands to gain the most from what is there, what is their angle in this, and is there any actual truth behind it. So that's probably what I do. Like I always play the devil's advocate. So I think it's easy for me. It comes as second nature for me to figure out, if this news should just be something that you put in the trash, or is there some credence to it. So yeah.
So, Kamlika, I'm sure you must be receiving a lot of comments or the trolls also on your post, both positive and negative, whatever you are putting out there on LinkedIn. Okay, so how do you manage those things? Because especially when you're getting too many positive comments, then you get overconfidence, to be honest. Yeah, I know everything now out there and I can say anything. Okay, or sometimes when you get too many negative comments, the person can end up into too much of a depression that I'll completely stop writing now, or I will not do this any forward. So how do you create a balance between these two? Can you help us with that?
So I just last week I ended up having a spat with someone who's just continuously annoying me with their comments on my posts. So it's very funny that you're asking me this now. A lot of the times what I try doing is, if it's a negative comment, I try seeing ki is this person just being negative for the sake of being negative, or does he actually have some other point to it that I am missing from my end. Like you probably, like most of what I write is probably, what I have read in some, say, two three, sources, and maybe I've missed a critical crucial fourth piece that this person knows through either experience or, whatever he's read. So I try understanding first, key, is this person coming from, like, is it his knowledge or experience that he's telling me, like giving a negative comment, in which case I try understanding, okay, what am I missing over here. If that is not the case and he's just being negative for the sake of being negative, I just, type out whatever I want to say, like whatever root stuffs I want to say, I just type it out and then just keep my phone away, come back an hour later, delete it. And if the person keeps, annoying me more and more, I delete their comments also, like, dude, I don't want you here anymore. So yeah, just, just get it out of your system and then totally delete it is what I tend to do with the negative comments. Positive comments, yeah, I'm pretty sure that, it is quite easy to get carried away. Like, say you've gained great traction, your posts have reached like 200,000 views and whatnot. After a point, you might start thinking ki, yeah, this is like what I'm good at. Like, if you've read Nassim Taleb's books, he'll, in his entire Fooled by Randomness, that is what he talks about. That, people once or twice by fluke get it right, and then they think that, oh, this is how things work. So I think it's very important to be like Nassim Taleb in those instances, wherein, like, you think, okay, was this really dumb luck? Will this strategy work again the next time? So that is something that I think, because I have read a few of his books, I try to implement in my life as well.
Yeah, thanks. That's really helpful. So, Kamlika, you keep writing about so many different issues out there on your posts through LinkedIn. How do you keep yourself updated on so many different issues which goes around?
Yeah, so kind of like I am kind of like a jack of all trade, master of none. But I I have always liked reading. Like if it's something that I don't know anything about, it's all the more interesting for me to go and read up about that. So that is so. And like back when I was in my, like, now of course the amount of books I read has gone down, but back when I was in like in the final year of MDI, I had read 88 books that year, and like I think apart from six books, all of them were non-fiction. So I don't think reading has ever been a challenge for me. The challenge that I am facing now is reading good quality stuff, like good, not content that is like fake or propaganda or whatever. So and curating that is kind of a challenge for me now. So I have like a few subscriptions that I have, like one of them is ET Prime that I read regularly. Then there is the Economist subscription. Bloomberg is another one. These are like a few. Then there's a new this thing called, I don't know if you've heard of, but there's a site called the Morning Context. So these are a few of the things that I really enjoy reading because they give you the news, yes, but they also dive a little deeper into it, give you a bit of data to go on, and that really helps me. And it's not like I just read one of those sites or something. I go across different sites to see is this narrative consistent across. Is this like if it's something on the, say, like recently when the government was saying the economy is recovering, car sales are back to what it was in 2019 and stuff like that. So because I was reading all of these news, I knew ki, okay, let's go into the government site and see how many registration for cars were there. Was it just cars moving from the manufacturers to the dealers, or was it moving out of the dealer shops as well? So it's because I was reading all of this that I knew ki, okay, if I want to dive a little deeper into this news item, I need to go into these sites and figure out ki what is really happening. So I think curating good quality content is the challenge, not about how you keep abreast of all of this. So yeah.
So, Kamlika, any advice that you would like to give to the people to use LinkedIn, YouTube, or blogging more effectively, that who want to pursue this as a career also if they want to?
So I think because I've taken such a safe path, I would be the last person to give advice. But what I can tell you from having observed others who have made a good name for themselves, using LinkedIn and then moving on to other platforms, is like there is a need for niche content. Like if you say, for example, giving Aviral's case, the junior VC. So these guys talk about the startup space. They talk about the deals that are going on in the startup space, and there are people who were extremely interested in his that specific kind of content, that he actually went about, built an entire team that just curated this sort of information. So if you start out with quality stuff, in a particular niche, and and it shouldn't just be something that's superficial. It should be a little, you peel the layers of the onion, so you have to try getting towards the core of it. So once you've built that audience, it is always very easy to migrate them to another platform. And again, FinShots is another example where they started out with simplified financial news. Like to date, they have not used any jargons like PE or EV or something like that. They've simplified down in a way that even your grandmother can understand. And that has like a wide audience for them. They've also started, once you build that sort of attraction, they like now they're also going into creating YouTube videos. So that's another great thing for someone like me who consumes their content. It's a great thing for me. So that I think these are what I wouldn't say advice, but more of observations of what I've seen people you know doing successfully out there.
So, Kamlika, what are your future plans now after getting featured into LinkedIn Top Voices? Is there any change in the plans or still the same?
I i think I still want to read a lot more, upgrade myself a lot more, because the world is changing that much more faster. So yeah, my plan would be, there are a few books this year that I could not read. So I would want to, make time, make sure that I finish reading them next year at least, starting of next year. There are a lot of, so this year for whatever reason, I don't know. Maybe it was because work was too hectic, or the pandemic was playing a lot of things with our minds. But I have not really been able to upgrade myself much. Like last year, I had audited many courses on Coursera and edX that really helped me widen my perspective also. So that is something that I fell back on this year. So that is something I definitely want to catch up with. And uh, One of the good things that has happened this year, that is thanks to the pandemic again, is that a lot of these conferences that used to happen before, they were quite pricey, and you had to be there on the venue to get those gyan. And now all of that, now that it's moved online, I have this a bunch of us friends. We subscribe to almost like most of the good conferences that were there, and we keep using each other's IDs interchangeably to get access to that content. So that is again something that I'm not recommending you guys do this. Please do not hold a gun to me. I'm not recommend. Please, if you can afford to buy the this thing, please go ahead and buy it. But yeah, those conferences, the gyan from those conferences, something definitely that I would want to imbibe in my life as well.
Thanks for speaking to us. It's really nice talking to you. Kamlika, any last words from you?
I would just say that the questions that you asked were they really made me think a lot deep. They were not superficial questions at all. So, and a lot of my answers have been really honest things
Yeah.
that I've experienced. So yeah, I really hope that there are people who would relate to that. So yeah.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. Your answers were pretty honest and straight from heart. I'll say that whatever you have observed, to be honest, in your life and on your LinkedIn journey, it was really insightful for all of us and the people who are listening out there. Thank you.
Thanks again, Amit, and all the best to Guiding Touch.
Thank you. And the people who
Yeah,
are out
and
there, if you have
yeah,
enjoyed listening to us, please do like the video, comment on it, and subscribe to our channel.